Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zakariye Ahmed Hassan and you're watching the Youth Show here live at somalicable.tv. This show is here to help, inspire and empower young Somali people to greatness. You can call in with your success stories, we would love to hear. Have you recently passed your GCSEs with flying colours? Have you had any university offers? We would love to hear that here at the Youth Show at somalicable.tv. Likewise, are you going through any problems that you'd like to talk about? Together, me and you and the rest of the Somali nation, we can have solutions to overcome these problems. مقعي قوحة لدها زكريا أحمد حسن عوكة للصعود برنامج كسبتي والبال لحظة UK Time. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zakariye Ahmed Hassan Auke and you are watching the Youth Show in London here live at Somali Cable TV. كلانتي وناسن دمانتينا كسو دواذا برنامج كدلني رضا أن يحلدها زكريا أحمد حسن عوكة. And today's main discussions are: is university a better option than an apprenticeship, or is it the other way around? And is social media activism effective to the Somali youth of today? And does the education system in the UK really help push the potential of the Somali youth academically? Today's guests are Yasin, Mohammed Mahmoud, CEO of Somali Sideways, and Saeed, CEO of Science Terminologies in Somali. كسو دواد برنامجك. Yasin, هذا تبنا بلادد.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Yasin. I graduated last year. I studied finance and banking, and I recently started a platform called Ahnam Production, whereby we showcase videos and content and put that stuff online so for people to view. So that's what I do.
My name is Mohammed. I created the platform called Somali Sideways. It's been running for about a year now, and a lot of photos from around the world have been published online. And yeah, I'm looking to do a number of things with that project, inshallah.
My name is Saeed Hassan. I recently graduated medical engineering masters. So I run a project. I found a company called ULEN. We teach with my friend background, who's he studied the same university as me. And part of that we teach. What I tend to deliver is that explain scientific terminologies in Somali. So trying to get back our roots in Somali.
I understand. Where do you guys see yourselves in 5 years' time with your projects? So Ahlam, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Somali Sideways, do you see it developing? Do you see it going anywhere?
Inshallah, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's early days to say inshallah, but hopefully the aim is that it will develop and grow into something bigger. Yani, the whole point is to create something that is, that the young people can relate to, and yet again find a sense of belonging to. So the whole point is to create something visually that is appeasing to people. So after 5 years' time, hopefully we should be somewhere where we can look back and say we did well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I should be able to do in 5 years' time. One of the things is I want to try and break off the Somali aspect of it, because I feel that in 5 years' time I would like to have gone through a lot of other ethnic minorities that are standing sideways with the same concept. So hopefully that would be where the project should be in 5 years.
Mine, inshallah, will be mainly about, so now I lay down the foundation of like the terminologies and how people understanding the basic terminologies in Somali. So the next move is that I want to do a scientific documentaries in Somali, full Somali, so that like stuff like physics, chemistry, biology, stuff that are relevant so that people back home at least can understand in Somali the stuff that's happening in the world right now.
Mahmoud, one question for you. You know, you want to break off the Somali aspect of it, but do you think that will maybe, like, not really, your main idea was to help the Somali people when you started off, so if you break off the Somali aspect of it, maybe, or drive Somali people away from your project, do you think that will maybe happen?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of both, because like I don't want to focus on Somali Sideways for the next 5 years, you know, because that's not really like moving forward and be very static. So I hopefully like look into other sort of ethnic groups and to like broaden the sort of aspect of Sideways into making it more like on a world platform instead of a Somali thing. I mean, the Somali side will still be there,
Yeah.
but I will still be doing other projects.
Understand. I'll put the first question out there of the day, which was, do you think university is better than an apprenticeship, or do you think it's the other way around? So you can talk about your personal experiences maybe, whether university really helped you, seeing as all three of you have graduated from university. Do you think maybe going back in time, you could have done something different, tried doing an apprenticeship? And, you know, what would you advise to the Somali youth out there to do if you were put in your situation? So if you want to start off, Yassine.
Sure, yeah. That's a tough one online, because obviously universities, apprenticeships at the end lead to the same thing, which is employment at some point. If you know what you want to do early on, then apprenticeship is a good way to grow into that market and grow into that niche. University, you explore a lot of different things, and you kind of ground your feet as well in terms of learning different aspects. Like, but yeah, I think it really depends. It comes down to the individual. That's mine.
Do any of you have any opinions?
Again, partially I agree with Yassine, but partially I tend to differ. If you want to go to university and academically you're gifted, or academically you want to really pursue a career in academic, then that is the only way you have to go through. But if, for example, you just want to get a job and want to work in a particular field, you can start early on. You don't have to wait to go to university. You can start vocational skills, alternative ways of getting to where you want to be. Also, but the essential part, I think, is really necessary, like GCSE and A-levels. They teach you so many skills that are necessary in the workplace. So that's my thing. That's one point. I think it depends on the student who wants to go to university or not.
Mohammed, do you have any different opinions on that?
If you're talking about personal experience, I'm actually glad that I went to uni, because I learned a lot in terms of the field that I want to get into. I think it really just depends on the person, because university is not for everyone. I think that's what people need to understand. There are many people out there that view university as like, okay, I haven't got into university, I lost all hope. But there are like many apprenticeships, or they can get into like any other sort of workforce that, you know, they can work their way up. So if, say for example, you're working at Marks & Spencer's, you know, you can stay, if in the next like 10 years you should be like assistant manager or store manager. There's still like, you can do many things, but university, it's a way of like, it's a stepping stone basically. It's not like once you graduate at uni, that's it. And I think that's what a lot of Somalis tend to view. Like when you get to university, you graduate. Yeah, you know, Weed Keke graduated at university. You know, he's done. You know, but that's just the stepping stone. There's like at least 10 steps left for you to achieve what you want.
I think also because the Somali people genuinely, they try to push their kids to go to university to get a better education. But actually a recent survey, it suggested that 56% of recent graduates, when they applied for a job, they felt that they were better than other candidates, mainly because they were more qualified. Do you think that has anything, do you think like, as in?
Yeah, of course, in the long run, if you were to graduate from university, of course your income will be higher, most likely. Also, the chance of you demonstrating your actual skills, the way to communicate, even the skills that you have, would be much higher if you went to university compared to if you didn't go to university. So it gives you a lot of essential skills that you need at workplaces, like communication skills, all the basic skills that anyone needs. But that's not the only way, of course, as Mohammed said, that's not the only way you can achieve those skills. You can also learn those skills through, you know, apprenticeships, you know, internships in different companies and stuff like that. But certain field require for you to be, you know, being graduated on that and have a certificate that proves that at least you've done the necessary skills to achieve it.
Do you think that mindset, you know, generally of Ummah Somalia, do you think we should try and get rid of it slowly? Like, it's a necessity for you to go to Jama'at, so maybe something related to business. So maybe he doesn't need to go to Jama'at, but because the pressure of the family is suggesting for him to go to university. So in essence, it's a sense of sharaf, for example, in the community. So wiilkii ku foga university, but adi wiilkaada muxuu sameynaa?
Hawarun way jirtaa taas oo ah Soomaalida in qayb waxa laga yaabaa inay noqoto in la iskugu faano kale ana wiilkay gabadheeda jaamacad bay ka soo baxay maxad ka soo baxay taas way jirtaa waana arin jirto oo baahan in laga waxaysan tan kale jirto waxa weey dad waxa jirtaba aan maaragtay aan wadi karin waxbarashada aqoon ahaan waxbarashadeeda oo maaragtay academically aan gaari karin meesha rabeen iyo inay aadaan on xiiseynin dadka marka looma inta badan Soomaalidu ilmaha waa lagu force gareeyaa lama daydayo wax kale oo ilmuhu ku fiican waxa laga yaabaa gacanta shaqada gacanta inuu ku fiican yahay inuu plumber kale ku fiican yahay waxa badan oo ka duwan baa la eegi karaa laakiin focuska aad waxaan u saarnaa baad moodaa jaamacad kaliya inay tahay horumarkii waxaad ku gaari karto mana aha run ahaantii jaamacad kaliya waxa horumar ku gaari karto siyaalo badan oo kala horumar ku gaari kartaa
adana Maxamed
yeah I mean I think with regards to that it's just weird because many of these like Somalis like they say they went to university, they did this, they did that, blah blah, but at the same time they're not using what they've learnt to fulfill what they should be doing. It's kind of like, okay, I've done this, but I'm not going to do it. Like it's just you think to yourself, okay, why did you waste 4, 5, 6 years of your life doing whatever it is, and at the same time you're not fully fulfilling what you want to do. It's kind of like a waste of time and a waste of your money. So, and I think in Somalia, it's like a lot of people are very qualified. Like they have the papers. They have like when it comes to papers, they're there. But when it comes to like experience, when it comes to like, okay, what else do you have on the table? Nothing is being shown.
Yes, you know.
I think partially what Mohammed is saying is right. The experience is there, the knowledge is there, theory is there. Like when you're not getting a chance. When you come out of university, unemployment is at an all-time high. قف جامعة كسب ديار ما إنه شغل من جبت. There is no jobs, so it's difficult for the person to actually put that theory into practice. And I think that's what makes it difficult for people. And that's university almost becomes a safety zone at that point, where the person can almost wait for 3 years until they know what they want to do, and then find out that later on in life.
But don't you think, Yasin, like one of the reasons why a lot of Somalis not just Somalis, a lot of youngsters are not doing great after university is mainly to do with the fact that they were forced by their parents of what kind of course they should do. Like we quite Somali, you have to be the engineer, doctor, lawyer. If you're not none of those, then you basically people don't consider you studied a serious subject. So I think that's the mentality that we Somalis have to address, because if we want our kids to succeed, they have to choose whatever the kid wants to do rather than what the parents want the kids to do.
Absolutely. I think you're right.
Well, like as in, do you think to encourage wiilka the Jama'at, maybe it's a good thing, because I mean Somaliasha, when you're better knowledge, as in obviously you know what to do in the outside world, you have certain experiences. For example, you want to do medicine, you can treat the Somali people, maybe you can go back home, you can help the Somali people. So maybe the idea of umada Somaliyad in encourage Karayan wiilkooda mise gabadhooda in the Jama'ada, then maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what separates us from the rest of different cultures.
There is a difference between encouragement and actual forcefulness. If you encourage someone to do something, then make sure that what the thing you're encouraging them on is something that's organic, coming from them. Positive encouragement, basically. But if you are forcefully implying your thoughts on someone else, that's not encouragement. That's you vicariously living through your son. And I think that's the difference between walidin Somalia. They want them to go and carry on that torch, and that's probably what the biggest difficulties.
And also the kid is the one who's going to go through that difficult route. If he's not ready, or if he's not ready, then no matter how much the parents want them to be a doctor or an engineer or whatever field the parents want them to do it, they won't do it because they're the ones who are going to go through that field. So I think the parents need to understand that, and at some point they need to step back from their kids, telling what to do. Like from young age, they need to encourage, like, what do you want? Ask those questions. Why do you want? Like, we kind of have to get what the kid wants rather than what the parents want.
Of course, you know, every daughter or son, maybe they don't want to follow the same route as their father or their mother. They want to go do something different. But then, you know, marka yartahay, you look at aabahada and hooyadaada as a role model. So waxaa aragtaa as if, you know, aabahayga sidan u sameeye, hooyadeeda sidan sameeysa. So ani maybe waxaan rabaa inaa magaca reerkana sii wado. So I want to do what they're doing. So maybe that's in itself is a good thing, but of course marka la gaaro a certain age, for example, had the GCSE hadaa lagu dhex jiro. After GCSE waxaa loo socdaa A level. When you go to A level, you choose what subjects you want to do. Essentially, those subjects, you want to go for a career path in them. So, do you think, when is the right time to step back? When is the right time for hoya the iabaha inishag in a kodahan wheel call them Sakaboda? You know, Adi Waharatit Same, Aniganoko supports Garana, like you see, essentially it's up to you. So, what age do you advise the mum and the dad to step back?
أنا as early as primary school aan dhihi lahaa sababtoo ah waxaa weeye qofka waalidku wuxuu u baahan yahay inuu ilmahan ku kobciyo waxaan ilmahan ma aragtay hal mahbin wax ku soo dhashay oo bari u sameynaya ma aha waa wax u baahan waqti badan inaad geliso buugti ka soo qaad ilmaha la rabtaa inuu engineer noqdo doctor noqdo from young age buug loogu talagalo oo xiisiis ilmaha ku ogaan karo ba soo gadi kartaa library-ga geyn kartaa waa qof oo expert that field ku ah geyn kartaa su'aalaad ka weydiin kartaa marka ma aha kaliya inuu waalidku uu noqdo wax u sheegay laakiin waa inuu noqdo wada tusa laftiisa adoon isagii garanayn wadadii tusi karin waa inuu qof wadada tusa ama maaragtay u haaga wadadaas oo la yimaado
maxaa ka darantaada Yasin, you know, Saeed wuxuu dhahay inaad tustid from an early age. Adi maybe do you have a different opinion? So maybe you can leave it a bit later because essentially we'd come sagabada wasi korisa. They're growing in age. Ilmigo kusi korda. So maybe early it's not the right time in alako encourage garaya because maybe dash waxa dareemaan early age is a bit forcefulness. Wilka really he hasn't gone through Misagabada, she hasn't gone through the life stages to make their own decisions. So if from an early age you're pushing your kid or something to do engineer, go to an expert in field, that in itself is encouragement or whatever you want to call it, forcefulness to essentially make your kid do what you want to do if you have a feeling. So maybe do you guys think that you could do that maybe at a later age or?
I think there is يعني رنان وسوكة يعني دنيار مكان مركو يري هاي حتى على سارتيد كل هذه أبو حنبران هاي حنبران لنا عولي حين you almost يعني steering the car in one way. You could step off and then again give them freedom and then later on in life force your hand on them. Like it depends يعني it's a fine balance that has to be struck between the two. Either you tell them to do something or you step back and say it's up to you.
لكن qofka bilaadan wuxuu wax garanta wax sameyn kara markuu waxyaalo badan oo kala duwan uu arko wax sameyn kara marka ilmaha markuu yar yahay hadaadan ma aragtay meelo badan ama waxyaalo badan oo kala duwan aad tuseen isagoo yar hadhow markay noqoto inuu doorto waxa uu yarka uu arko uu dooran kara laakiin already ma haysto enough experience inuu ma aragtay waxa dhan soo maray that's why ilmaha u baahan tahay inay as much as you can in a variety of different field at ilmaha sii tusto ciyaalnimo wax loogu talagalo kale of course wuxuuna qaadi karin cidna laguma khasbay laakiin taas I think is very important element that we are as a Somali missing now
laakiin taas wuxuu ku xiranta waalidku wuxuu tusubinaya kaligiisa ma arki karo
of course
waalidku wax yar tusay qayb kaliya uu tuso wuxuu wadaa waayahay abeega hooyadii waxna tustay waxna galaa
no
like hadda kala balaarisay maybe kaligiisa
that's what I mean hadda adiga inaad ilmihi tustaa waxaad u tahay ilmihii tusaa midii ilmo qof oo ku forsi gareynay maanta waxaad u kaxaysay fair lagaga hadlayo engineering whatever oo ciyaalka loogu talagalay bari waxaad u kaxaysay another field bari kale waxaad u kaxaysay another field marka at least waxaad siisay variety baad siisay oo ilmihii ka dooran karo laakiin haddaad taas siinin ilmihii maaragtay ma yeelan karo wuxuu isagu maaragtay rabo.
So if we go back to the question, which was essentially you give your own opinion. So maaragtay jaamacadda is it better than an apprenticeship inuu wiilka tradekiisa barto inuu soo shaqeysado to work his way up essentially. Is that better than university, or can it be the other way around? Do you, like, as in you can give your own personal opinion, would you want to go to university, or would you do an apprenticeship? Obviously you have all been through the university period, but going back, if you could change something, would you go do something different?
Honestly, for me, I would, if I were to go back in time, I would exactly go through the same route that I went through, because it was something that I was really passionate about, science and math. It was something that I really was passionate about since I was a kid. So it was something that I wanted to go in further and study. So that could be a biased view of myself, but in general, you don't have to go through that same path to succeed in whatever you want to do. There are different routes to everything, you know. So.
What about you two? Would you go back in time, change it, or would you stick to Said? Obviously, you can give your biased views, but then.
I mean, if anything, going through the university period, I would probably wish that I could have done a bit more experience, perhaps, like maybe do, you know, work in volunteering section, work in voluntary organizations. I would have done more, should have done more. That's the only thing, but I mean, I'm pretty happy as to, you know, doing the degree and everything. But with regards to the question, I really think it depends on what field you want to get into. It really, because if you're doing business, I mean, you don't really have to do the, like, sort of business degree, but it's important to understand it, because it's good to have, basically, you know the saying, knowledge is power. So I would recommend people to go to university based on that sort of quote, because it will help you in a later period to gain more information. It's important because the world is just full of information nowadays.
But you know, when you go to Jama'at, it's becoming more and more competitive. So for example, wiilkaada may have 10 A star, 10 A star, but even then he's going to struggle in Jama'at fiican helo. So do you think instead of waiting around in a Jama'at fiican heshid, like for example with business, you don't really need to go to a business, you don't really need to do a business degree. So do you think maybe you can go work where you want to work, for example, and work your way up and sort of learn your trade in a way? That's going to essentially, do you think, would that be better than doing a business degree for, let's say, 3 years, you come out and you knew?
I would say do both. I would say go work before you start uni, go to a, I don't know, business firm or whatever, you know, gain some experience over there and then go to uni.
I think it's right what Mohammed's saying, because there is a lot of like mystery around how the work life is, especially when you're at university. Those 3 years studying those books can become almost romanticized at one point. And then when you step into the real you know, work life, 9 to 5, it's completely different. So if you have a mixture of both and kind of understand what it is that you're going into after you finish university, at least you come with a realistic view the moment you finish.
Where do we get this notion of, like, you want to do business, you don't have to go to, I mean, you don't need to go to do a degree, because to me, it's just like, you could say the same thing within other field. You could say you don't need a degree in engineering to be an engineer. So business needs the same skills that any other field needs. I think that's one of the actual, also other mentality that is feeding into our conversation, that business is here. It's fine. You can go through it without doing the degree. Yeah, it's fine. I just don't get where that is coming from.
You know, for example, obviously in a Jama'at it's essential. But also what you said was right, as in business people feel as if they don't need to do a degree in it. So instead they do an apprenticeship. They go for an intern somewhere maybe and work their way up. But obviously there's different sectors. Engineer maybe حتى وحو بهي هنا جامعة دكتور
Sometimes you don't have to. You can go through internship and work your way up, even in engineering. But I mean, I think it was one of those things that us Somalis, we tend to kind of belittle some of the fields, like saying, hey, it doesn't need, you can just still do it without a degree. And I think that's one thing we should address.
Maybe, you know, Ummah Somalia, they feel as in on a good, or we'll call them Sagawato, they're going to become Donald Trump, or they're going to become Lord Alan Sugar in Onakonian. That's 1 in 100, that's 1 in 1,000 is going to become that kind of thing.
And
but
even those guys, even when you ask them, they would like, if I were to go to university, I think I would have been better than what, I mean, not Alan Sugar, but the other guy. I mean, it gives you the skills. University is necessary for so many things. So let's not just limit the discussion to business.
And it's difficult as well. Yeah. You can't, like, obviously all of us have been through university. It's difficult to answer a question in hindsight. Yeah. We don't know what it would have been like. Apprenticeship maybe would have turned out better, or would have turned out worse. You never know.
For example, you know, Annie had maybe Daniela, my age, they don't know what they want to do. For example, I'm saying you ask a lot of kids when they're this age, what do you want to do? Do you want to become a doctor? Do you want to become something? So they all essentially, they push their kid to do the academia, for example. They want to become academically established. Obviously, you have some people or maybe academia, for example, they're not really focused on it. So maybe a different route, maybe, you know, it's not really going to university. Maybe they can get out of university. Maybe someone might be more gifted in sport, or they, as in you saw Mo Farah, he won the world championship. Someone could be inspired by that, and then they can go on and do that sport. So instead of going for maybe a university or an apprenticeship, is there a third way to maybe push to what you want to do?
There probably is. I think there is. There's always a third way. There's always another way. The thing is, like, is the parents willing to take that risk? It all comes down to risk. Are you willing to take a risk on, you know, letting your kid follow their dream? And most parents, Somali parents, aren't.
And I think that's an important element that I think as Somali parents we need to let the kids make as many mistakes as possible before they're too old to make mistakes. So that will be the only way you can learn in life, even if you went to university.
Yeah, as in, of course, that's maybe an essential part. But Somalia, as they say, we neither our next another. So maybe as you get older, you get better. So, for example,
it's not necessarily صح معها مهمة صح تحكي معها لكن مرة وينادا ونكسا experience بدنا accumulate كوسامين سامر كذبيناتو مرة وحياة بدنا of course لكن المية تحلف together حتى وحياة بدنا try كراي so you can still recover from it. That's why you have to make as many mistakes as possible.
I know what I was getting at is because, you know, they went through a lot of stuff. So بكا أخلي بدن هنا in a way. Maybe أدي حسكم لسا أنا أخلي بدن تهاي محاجة معدك صوب بحذا دكتور نقطة. But essentially you don't have that same life experience as So what they're pushing towards is بأجي هنا حكا هذا اللي عندي جا. So
sometimes in again with that your life goes somewhere waxyaalo badan oo maartay ka duwan taada inay muhiim ah aabaha dus maartay dhibaato soo maray wax badan soo maray of course waxa markaan waxyaalo badan oo isaga aad kala sheekaysanayso oo weydiinaysaa jirta laakiin specific field mar oo khibrad u lahayn ama baalki u lahayn doctor ma Soomaali loo baahan yahay maqlay aabo doctor nooma noqo lacag badan baa helaysaa umada ku jeclaanaysa umada wax u qabaan waa sax waa encouragement fiican oo qofka ku push karan karta laakiin at the same time waxa laga yaabaa aabaa inuu si fiican u fahmo waxa adiga ku fiican tahay hooyada inuu fahmo saadarteed meel aadan bari ka soo noqon karin inay kugu push karayaan oo ka soo aadona adiga aad shalaytana taa laga yaabaa.
What about you, Mahmoud? Do you think maybe the mom and dad know what they're talking about most of the time markay ka hadlayaan what field you should essentially go in, or do you think maybe, you know, then again, they don't know what they're talking about? So I came out of Jama'at, I came out of high school, A-level or somewhere, I know what I'm talking about, let me go decide for myself.
I mean, I think with me, experience comes above qualifications, you know. Parents, they went through so much pain, they went through so much in order for me to come to the UK. So I have to, like, it's in my, like, sort of conscious to actually like listen to what they're saying and like to follow what they're saying to some extent. But when it comes to like, you know, field and all that stuff, you know, it's, you know, the parents should like listen as well. It has to be a two-way thing. It can't be like, you know, they input their thing and my opinion is out the window and what I say, their opinion is out the window. There has to be a two-way thing where we come to a compromise.
That's an essential part as well, because, you know, marka hooyadaada ka wada hadlaysaan something oo aabahada, they essentially say, you know, ani waa kaa weynahay, so ani waa ogahay waxa sameyn kartid waxa sameyn karin, so ani waxa kula dahay maqan markaas hopefully you can succeed in life. So that two-way thing hata is something, you know, Somalida, and essentially it's not Somalida hata, it's the rest of the globe as well. They think, of course they've been through more life experiences, but then your input really doesn't matter at all. Because when you put an input in, as in, how can he tell me what to do, for example?
No, I think it's absolutely right. And يعني مهمته حتى حريرك والدك وحكوا حرانتها what you guys talk about. هذا في عن كذا شيء ندرس للجوكين هذا شيءين هو ما عند سكولك وإحنا كداعي جامعة وإحنا كداعي include them in the conversation. هذا مرة بالله هذا الشيء والدك وفهمه واحد مرت they understand your struggle, they understand what you be going through. Like هذا كبير arrogant هذا نقطة هذا والد واحد ما فهم is above your level هو it's too difficult. معقول معها والدك. هذا you push them away and then suddenly you ask yourself يعني when you see stuff on TV and stuff in the world, you kind of يعني dismiss your parents for thinking that they're not on the same level that everyone else is on. So it's up to us to kind of connect that bond حتى.
taas sina ugu darsanaha oo dhalinyarada meelaha ku baratay run ahaantii qofka macala Soomaaliga wax ku soo bartay Soomaaliya ee cilmi leh maadaama uu luqadda Ingiriiska waxa laga yaabaa soo event jabina inay u arkaan inuu waxba aqoon way nagu jirtaa dhalinyaro badan ma aragtay meesha ku korta waxa ku soo bartay ku jirtaa أب وحوم وإذا كذا وبدك تقصد أنا كاخترسان وارم تانا إن إسكاس عربان at the same time مسؤول محمد شيء هذا قا وإني والد كلفته وحياة بدون الله خبرة بدنيا أما المو تعال كيس إنه يجينا دري لانه نجيستان بقى مهمة وإن نقول أنا بحكي شيء هذا كوبدي وحلو شو بين نقول.
So basically هذا I think واحد يسان هويدا أبها عنقة إن سلوا هذا هذلان so وحركت الناس مسد أنا أول شيء كتد هاي هذا أبا وحنا ربنا دكتورنا ولا لذا كوين ولا لذا because essentially مركا أدي كوين تهاي مسحتها مركا وكوير تهاي قفوا كوريا for example قفوا علمي بدين هاي أدي وكما أخلي بالدنيا ذا so maybe هاي هذا كوضا هذا هاي هذا هدوكم أخلين هابير أكو جوجت هابير هدوكو جوجت إيدا أكو جوجت both sides always واحد يستقف أكل وذا هذا الشيء هاي هذا maybe مسكح هذا اللي يحكوا راح يشتوي ديارته هاي so ودعوة هي وشك هاي إمام مخلص وما حكوا السمايا نسوا مرته هاي نسوا مرته so essentially بونكاست إن على فول قرية في عن second سؤال شبابات وهوها social media activism you know هذا وصي بدنا هذا it's become more and more popular is it really effective does it really help Somalia than يرى or even just Somalia in general, does it really help? Or is it better in ala sabaha, in our bahla samaya instead of keyboard can ala
from ahan لو ديناca ka eegaya dinaca koobaad social media dad waxa la yaqof inuu waxa weey waa aalad loo isticmaalo inaad ma aragtay umada aad gaadsiiso eraygaaga iyo fikradaada aad gudbiso of course waa aalad fiican hadda sida fiican loo isticmaalo laakiin inta badan waxa dhacda شيء بمر وحلايا trending إنه سمينا أما تويتر كسمينا أما إنستغرام أو قف كستو أو مركا إيادا كميدا أو سكراعه. That is not a real activism. Activism واحد أنا أديك إنت كاتماتو عاد وقت جاء قيب كميدا عاد كليسو كدمنا عاد كاميرا دلسي وبعنتها. كاميرا دلنتي كم وقع أنت كرتت لبا تويت أتصميس صدق تويت أتصميس أفر إنستغرام وتقرط فيديو أتكلم كم وقع أنت كرتت مدح إن درسين إن كان وأنا تكتو أما أتكون ضيدو إن practical at the same time وinformation how to transfer information by social media لكن information كم مصمم فعل كلا الربع فعل كوا حاسمه بالآدم marka bil aadamkii wax maqan bad moodaa information ku isku gudbina hebel hay dhageystay hebel hay dhageysato maarata isku wada maarata tweetkayga as many retweet as possible in hell of
Mahmoud, I don't
yeah I think it's important to know how to use it. I mean, like Somali Cyrus, for example, it started on Instagram. My first post was on Instagram. And initially my idea was to just take photos of Somalis. It wasn't of the story aspect, didn't come in. I wanted to take Somali pictures in London. And later on it started to pick up. So I thought, let me put the input of the story. So people like will express the most deepest of story that they don't normally share to people, let alone online. So, and that started to pick up, and it started to go like, you know, it was like a demand kind of thing. So then I started taking photos of people on a daily basis, and then the international sort of stage came, and people started to send me stories from around the world. But going back to the question, I think it's really important to know how to use it properly. I'm not saying that there are people, like a lot of people so for example, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or any of these platforms are not using it in a good way, but it really just depends on what they share. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's your platform, you know, it's your choice, whatever you post, you know, even if it's something that's like, something that you don't agree with, or something that you're like, hey, why did this person post this post, like it's wrong or whatever. It's their platform, so you have to give that right to them, whatever it is, whatever your disagreement. So I think it's really, you know, with regards to like what you post, it's important. If you're posting something positive, something that will people, when they look back and they're like feeling inspired, or change their mindset of the day, of the week, of the month, or even the year, then you know you've done your job on social media. And that's, for me, that's the whole concept of Somali Cyrus, so that the mindset can change. Yeah.
I think social media has helped a lot. Like they've helped, you know, change regimes in the world. The Tunisia uprising was partially due to the social media. Same thing that happened in Egypt was partially due to social media. The problem with social media, however, is that when you say activism, when you post stuff on social media, it takes away that responsibility of you putting in action. It kind of gives you a credibility of saying, okay, I've done my part, I leave it to the rest of the world. And I think that's a very dangerous thing that could happen. Whereas activism before was something on a grassroots level, now you sharing a post is almost the equivalent of you know, I've done this, I've helped, I've actually put in effort. I think Somaliland, we should really, فعلك ماشي كسمين كنا حاجة واي يا تعمل كنا دكيا عمل كنا tuition أخذ basic stuff you know هذا حنك رمنا وحبرة ويلكي واي where should I go online ما ودي كرا ما قاعد اسمح لا school كاجي those things are really practical things, and I think the way the world is moving, we are becoming more glamorized with stuff that takes place online, where we almost losing the attachment or the relatability to the human level. And I think that's a very dangerous distinction that can happen when you talk about activism.
Because you know, social media, as in we'll see that over the years, it's become more and more popular. So some in English saying وحويان keyboard warriors. So ما تقدرون نحكي عن كمبيوتر كويسي خوريان. لكن سي in essence أنت keyboard warriors كنا قلنا هايان maybe إنه بحانة في عن maybe إنه آذان outside event إنه سميان إنه دلني رضا الصومالي ذين سو كانان إنه لهذلان then essentially social media إنه كرح جيران. But of course هذا you see a lot of دلني رضا or social media كصوبنا هذا. وحاكسا ديال 8 سنة جيرو and they're already on Facebook and Instagram. So it has its ways, both ways it can be seen, but then as an effect really مقاطع because أذي واحد سمسها سعيد_science terminologies. So maybe قف online كرح جيرو or science chatlan or في Somali حتى كده هيك in science وديال. Do you think maybe واحد سمانة is really effective in Bulgaria than the other Somali ذا؟
وسؤال مهم هو just before internet سؤال عشان قدام يسوسون نقطيه ورا إن لو أركضه shall there was a research that came out of Cambridge. It was on the news where they found out a kid who spends 4 hours more on a screen is more likely to drop 2 grades down compared to a kid who didn't spend the same amount of time. So it is becoming an issue now of most of these kids are going on social media. They have smartphones where they can use Facebook, Twitter, all the social medias. So that is one element that I think the discussion also kind of have to include when we talking about this social media point. The second point that you came to, of course, my way of delivering that Somali terminology is not going to be aimed at every single body on the social media. My aim and objective of the project is just that the Somali language is kind of dying out, and is dying out in the most important areas, like scientific research, because at the end of the day, if you want to communicate a particular idea to a Somali person that doesn't speak your language, then it becomes dhibaajirta. Haddaad qofka walaalka Soomaali ku soo barto on luqadda Ingiriiska inuu aqoon laga yaabo, haddaad rabto in idea inuu ka maskax badan yahay laga yaabo, laakiin maadaama aad la communicate karin karin idea aad la communicate karin karin, dhibaatay noqonaysaa. Saa darteed waxaa u baahanahay inaan Soomaali ahaan aan luqadda ma aragtay kobcino as a dhalinyaro, inaan isku dayno inaan barno luqadeen. Taasana igu xambaaraysa inaan waxaana aalada ugu fudan oo adeegsan karo waxay noqotay social media, inaan geliyo 4 eray maaragtay weekii maalin kasta, inaan geliyo 4 eray oo English science terminology Soomaali ku daray.
su-aasheena ku dambaysa maanta barnaamijkeena wuxuu ahaa Somali in England, does the education system, does it really help maximize the potential of the Somali youth today? For example, dhalinyarada oo high school ka socdaan, high school ka really wax ma ka bartaan, because high school waa la aadaa, saaxiibayaashaada alla soo baashaala waa la hadlaa, kasoo soo noqotaa guriga cashaa cunta, television-ka fadhiisataa, waa seexataa, noloshaada intaas weeyaan. Really, like, does it maximize potential kaada, as in based on your experience adinkoo dhan, as in waxaa kusoo barataan Ingiriiska, maybe dadyaal college ka bilaabeen, Maxamed waa garanaa inuu primary school kusoo bartaa. Did it help you really maximize your potential?
I want to talk about something, because you said England, right? I want to compare that to other nations. So if we're looking at, for example, the Asian continent, China and Japan, when you focus on the aspect of their high school, the process of how they get into it's more of a, like, the way that the reason why China is where it is today, or why the school system is one of the best in the world when it comes to technology and when it comes to gaming, is because not only do people have interest of it, it's like they get tested on a weekly basis, constantly. It's like a routine. It's like they know, like, with what's amazing about them is, like, they have a, like, ritual, like they do this, they do that, they have a schedule to fulfill. Whereas if you look at the England, like, system, it's like they focus on the high school or the school, whatever it is, so much that they forget to tell them, hey, do this at home, or do that at home, or do that at home, whatever. And I think that's what's declining in high school, sixth form, college, or whatever. It's because they don't pressurize the kids to do stuff at home, and I think that's very important.
I slightly disagree with Mohammed. Some part of the Chinese compared to the UK. I mean, of course, I agree with Mohammed that our schools are failing because of the number of students per class, per teacher is crazy. Even compared to China, China has got more students, but they're not disciplined as much. But also one thing we need to understand is that the kids in here, compared to the kids in China, here they allow more creativity, whereas in China it's like an instruction given to the kid, whereby they go through every single day and they repeat over again and again, and that limits the kid whether he wants to think outside the box. So that's an element that our schools here are good. They're not better, but in so many ways, of course, in science, in math, China and Singapore are leading, and the reason why they're leading because they discipline that particular way. But also, I think it helps, our schools helps our kids. But there's one element, which is that you have to help the kid at home. So the system has to change slightly.
Because one way of knowing that Somalida in the UK are failing is because every hoy is looking for a tutor.
but that's across the country. It's like in London, it was the day before yesterday, 44% of people in London have a private tutors. It's not just the Somalis. 44%, that's almost 50% of the Londoners have a private tutors.
That as in a way that's the organized إنه دنيارة الصومالية or maybe حتى دنيارة in general UK that they're essentially falling behind because وحلا أركا you know محمد وحود هاي جامعة ياشا or school ياشا in Japan مثل China essentially when يكفي عينهن in إنجليزك but then again وحلا أركا ويل كمركا لا درا homework مثل مركا لا درا شخو إنه سمايا قريقو هذا كورسي قو فدسلا تي في قو داودا ما تودن كوز وأوجي هاي بريتو من كسكول كون خذا معلم مدة بحس يعني كرتا أو كلام so أنا وحن هذا معلم مدة ديبه همك هذا ديبن وحنا مي كسماني كرتا essentially مي دلي كرتا مي تهابن كرتا إذا حتى يكو قايل so maybe I complain جراني كرا أنا child abuse كسماسة so maybe you know discipline كا أنا للسوء عليه not as in أنا للدلو but maybe خاشة أنا لو كنا خذا دنيا رضا أنا to find their way.
Of course, the discipline has to come back. There's not much of a discipline in the British school system, but the actual system, how the lessons are delivered, I think I would prefer more the British way compared to the Asian way. So that's my personal preference.
I think it's due to creativity. We have more technology than we ever had before. Information is available, readily available. But the problem is when curiosity doesn't strike a child, he doesn't feel the need to go find the answer. When everything is there for you, you don't feel the need to go and search for it. And I think that's what education is lacking at the moment, is giving Arurta that ability to feel it about I can work it out in a different way because every answer is given to them.
Because you know, the English kata, many of them, والدي أشهد هواي them صعبة هذا يقصوا قحين هل كان يعمل so essentially with the Raman dipta of وحبرشين رادسد أنا did mel fug أنا to walk like quite a long time to go study maths like see هل كان your bus pass is free حتى ما بحين سد وحنا did it أتعاون الساعة وسيس عن الساعة you're at school وحنا مدرسة for example there's no burden كون وحنا باقد هسنة الساعة درم كل سيد حكي so dipta like you don't appreciate it enough because مركو واحد كهاتة I appreciate it كذا so هذا بسكة like if you destroy the bus system if the child had to walk 10-15 miles to go to school he start to appreciate it more so appreciation is one but also curiosity like Yasin said is another but the third one I think because when you're young you look up at your role models so maybe we high and you have walala kawin and maybe themselves they don't care about college in it then maybe we have trust fund in a bank so they essentially believe that something is there it's ready for them already it's already ready for them or they don't even need to go to Jama'at so you can blame system or English like you حتى عنقة إنه مسأجن لبلين غريان قال دل قرتي سنسي so you have to you know you have to help you have to appreciate both sides of the story so I think as in maybe the youth in the UK or the youth in general need to start appreciating it more what do you think
I think you pretty much summed up all of it it's like of course the kids need to appreciate but also we need to understand the time we're in kids hardly appreciate anything nowadays. The reason being is that we need to discipline our kids at our houses. Even forget about what's happening in school. If we start the real discipline from home, then they can take that discipline to school, to learn something new, to educate themselves, to behave in good way, in good manners, in public and arenas. We should start from home, I believe it.
You know, ما تلون حلقة هذا discipline. So أنا قاعدين discipline برتد، أنا وحاس برتد. But مرمر by your actions speak louder than words. ما فهمته. So are they instead of إنا ويل كذا every time وكرسي أركتد إنه كفضية TV وداونيا أنت صون كوسا بحنا هاد maybe أنا لهذا الشيء دافع عن. Maybe you know إنا ده you know أبا مسهاية وحنا صامرة وحنا جرته وحنا با إنا وحفي عن نوش هذا لسه مسد. مرة بي إنا أوقاتد مركويناتد إنا وحن ربنا كوسا ما إنا شليسد for example. So
also waxyaala yar oo basic waxaa jira aan islenahay ilmaha ma caawin karaan laakiin muhiim ah in caawin karaan for example oo kale habeenkii markii la isku yimaado family dinner in ilmuhu wada qaato intii la fogay telefoonada oo ilmuhu dhan waalidku isku yimaadaan la sheekaysto ilmaha la weydiiyo wuxuu maanta soo maray waxyaalahaas waxay ka qayb qaadan kartaa ilmaha waxbarashadiisa iyo discipline-ka si easy aan ugu bari kartaa laakiin haddii noqoto waxbaan kuu sheegaya dhageyso markaa TV ka soo ta TV ka damin waxay noqonaysaa waan isla xintameynaa mid ku mudway
game asayarna for example هاي television كان يكدي من الساعة مركز ساحة تدوسوك على television كاشيدا game عيارة.
So like family stuff. What my family do is my mom turns off the Wi-Fi.
Everyone
just comes in, you know what's going on. Everyone eats it.
For example, أنا هاي وحكي سمين جرت PlayStation كعيارة كده. So أنت controller كيكا خالد مركز internet كيكا دميس هذا محاهد السمانة for example. So as in of course وحصلوا بهاي هاي لكن سي like waxa fiican maybe in la isla hadlo more family dinner la daha aabaha wuxuu maqan yahay shaqo markuu shaqo soo noqdana wuxuu jooga saaxiibaashiisa la jooga sama la arko wiilka as in wiilka marka shaqo subaxda u baxaa so wiilka ma arko ba aabihiisa that much so he's like they're working 24/7 they either working or they don't see them so wiilka marka soo kaco his aba's already gone to shaqo markuu soo noqdo mu jooga markuu saaxadan markaas soo noqda so instead you need to link all of that together I think and then I think generally like as in umada Somalia dhalinyarada way soo kici doonaan we can maybe be one of the leading nations in education system kana because I think potential cause there always macalin marka aadid wuxuu dhahaa wiilkaad wuxuu haysadaa potential ka inuu noqdo wiilku ku akhri badan classka laakiin si potential wuxuu baahan yahay in la shaqeeyo hard work in la sameeyo so potential necessarily waan noqon kartaa laakiin ma noqon doontaa for example yeah if you're it's useless if you're not
guriyaheenna inay maartay isku dayaan system guriga inay ka waxaysmo oo xilli buug la akhriyo xilli baalki la akhriyo oo inuu noqonin maartay ilmaha kaliya in lagu sii daayo laakiin ay noqoto gurigu system ilmaha control gareeya oo u discipline gareeyo bari ka maalin wuxuu sameyn lahaa inay noqonin maartay meel uu seexdo oo ka toosto cuno oo ka noqdo inay noqonin
والله the time is running short برنامج كان سعادة أنكم يراته I'd like to thank you for joining us today in the youth show and also the دياشة مداونية television كمل وباك داون سانبا أنا ما هاد سند نيكو بها هدو أنت سدالكو حرة لصعد برنامج كان سبتي وربا هل كان youth show أنا وحلتها زكريا أحمد حسن عوكة والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zakariye Ahmed Hassan and you're watching the youth show here live at somalicable.tv. This show is here to help, inspire and empower young Somali people to greatness. You can call in with your success stories, we would love to hear. Have you recently passed your GCSEs with flying colours? Have you had any university offers? We would love to hear that here at the youth show at somalicable.tv. Likewise, are you going through any problems that you'd like to talk about? Together, me and you and the rest of the Somali nation, we can have solutions to overcome these problems. مقعي قوحة لدها زكريا أحمد حسن عوكة للصعود برنامج كسبتي والبا لحظة UK time والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.